Many anime shy away from religious and cultural themes to weave into their story. Shaman King is not one of those anime. I'm Dimsy from the Shaman tribe, and we're gonna look at culture, religion, and drugs in Shaman King, how it's used to add layers to the story and the character, and how they're represented throughout the show. Now, this series of Shaman King really does highlight the different cultures and religions throughout the wide range of characters coming from various parts of the globe. There's an international feel to the show, but it also makes an effort to differentiate and detail the beliefs within the Japanese culture. For example, Japan's national religion is Shinto, which dates back all the way to the 8th century, and it's one of the few remaining animist and shamanist religions in the world, with shamanism being the practice which involves being able to interact with spirits through an altered state of consciousness. Now, this can be achieved through a ritual or a spiritual communion. Animism is the belief that all objects have their own spirit. Shaman King made an effort to highlight the different religious beliefs which are popular in Japan. They didn't merge or dumb it down to make it more accessible to the global viewers. Hiroyuki Take was inspired by them when he was constructing his characters, and it gets far more deeper than you may think. There's always been a culture gap for the international audience, since they don't understand, me included, we don't understand the visual cues or the word puns from the original dialogue, like how the Japanese audience would kind of pick up on such things. That's fine, and it isn't a problem that needs to be remedied. However, when a show embraces the numerous ideologies that exist within a culture, or in this case Japan, it can become a major strength and add a compelling layer to the motives surrounding the characters. This is what Take always strives for. He designs the characters first and their beliefs first before constructing the story. Embracing that cultural differences actually exist, you can add a theological layer to support the character's philosophy. When done right, it results in a story that has messages on so many different maturity levels. Now look, I didn't really know how the red torii gates, the giant rope tied around the shrine maiden's outfit, are staple iconography associated with the Shinto faith. You look at the fiance of Yo Asakura, the ruthless trainer Anna Kiyoyama, and later Anna Asakura. She is a spirit medium within the Shaman King world, but this is taken directly from the Shinto faith, where they are known as Itako. Buddhism is also referenced, as they say that how Asakura was originally a Buddhist monk. We know that Buddhism has its roots in China, which took its roots from India. With various changes, Buddhism found its home in Japan in the form of Zen Buddhism. The way the kanji for Amidomaru is written in the Japanese is the Japanese name for Buddha, Amitabha and Maru. In addition, Amidomaru's attacks are all Buddha themed, such as Gokyujin meaning Halo Blade and Butagiri meaning Vacuum Buddha Slash. Quite ironic how he is the guardian ghost of Yo, who can be described as very zen due to his very relaxed mindset. We even have a literal Buddhist group, a Buddhist pacifist group, who are participating in the Shaman tournament. Manga only, but they were the Gandhara group. Come on, come on. But Buddhism is not the only religion adopted from China, as Chinese Taoism came in the form of Onmyodo. Onmyodo, which translates to the way of yin and yang, is the practice of meteorology, geomancy, and divination by reading the flow of energy streaming and stemming from yin and yang. The Asakura family are a family of Onmyo mystics. It is through this belief that the concept of bodily energy called ki or chi was founded on. Centuries ago, Onmyo mystics, Onmyoji, used to occupy the highest seats in society. Their influence and their power shaped most of the political decisions. How Asakura is based off the most well-known mystic Abe no Seimei from the Heian period in Japan. How is the author of a magical book called the Cho Senju Ryaketsu, clearly inspired by Seimei's own book Senji Ryaketsu. They also share facts about their lives, such as their mothers being called a demon fox and their ability to create oni since they were young. There are plenty of visual references, such as the original version of Hao dressing in classic Onmyoji attire and the 5-star pentagram. The Asakura family have a strong lineage grounded in Onmyo mystics, but They're also very politically cunning. Yo's father, Mikihisa, is from another faith found in Japan called Shugendo. They're often represented by the Tengu, roughly known as mountain monks. They have a distinctive attire, such as having pommels down the chest, a small geometric hat, and a short coat with tassels. Now, they're depicted often as long-nosed goblins or humanoid crows. These visual cues are represented with Mikihisa. That's his design. And you know the trope of monks meditating under a waterfall? That can be traced to the Shugendo faith. So the marriage between Mikihisa, who married into the family, is the Asakura family acquiring another strong faith to put into their ranks. And the marriage between Yo and Anna can also be seen as a political marriage to bring together two of the strongest lineages of shamans as they bring together Japan's biggest faiths. This solidifying the Asakura family as a force to be reckoned with by having incorporated three of the largest faiths within Japan into their ranks. A very old school but culturally correct power play. The Abrahamic faiths are also given a nod through the X laws. The X in their name is the Roman numeral for 10, so the X laws refers to the 10 commandments. Jean is most likely named after Joan of Arc, who was a French saint. Let's not even forget that the guardian ghosts for the X laws are all archangels. In the manga, we have the Gandhara group, who are religious pacifists, so the different attitudes to religion are very influential, especially in the Shaman King manga. Many of the cultures and faiths are represented through the characters. There's not an over-reliance on the architecture to be a visual Easter egg. No, they don't need to do that. Shaman King's story doesn't travel to every part of the globe. Instead, it's the attire, the mannerisms, and the backstories of the characters that exemplify the culture and the inspirations to which they were conceptualized from. I detailed out just the Asakura family, but another reference to the Japanese culture is the Ainu people, whom are indigenous to Japan's northern island of Hokkaido. In 1899, a law was passed down that delegitimized indigenous people. Their culture, their history, and traditions were all lost over the next 100 years because they were assimilated into Japan. Japan said, you can't be different. Either you adopt our values, you take away and chuck away your traditions, otherwise we're not going to recognize you. And it was only in 1997 where they finally repealed the 1899 Act. With Shaman King's manga being released in 1998, it is evident how Takei was inspired by this event, and thus he created Horo Horo. Now, to what extent was Horo Horo utilized? Was he a wasted character? Was his potential floundered? That's a discussion for another day. With the Asakura family representing the conservative faiths of Japan, Horo Horo representing the indigenous people of Japan, Manta and Ryu represented the modern Japanese person. Manta was the typical Japanese child who is going through the system. He attends cram school, he is diligent, he's pretty much a very, very good kid. Ryu is the bum who is not in the government education system and is the complete opposite of a salary man. He's a soul that is navigating life without financial or a social goal. He's lost. Apart from finding his best place, he really doesn't fit in to where he's at right now, and that's exactly why he's always looking for his best place. As the Shaman tournament is an international event, we have representation from around the world. Most notably, since they're part of the main cast, or eventually part of the main cast, Ren is from China, Lysek is from England, and Chokolov is from America. There's controversy in the depiction of certain characters and how they represent their ethnicity. The main one, of course, is Chokolov, who has stereotypical thick, full donut lips, protruding navel, and of course, his name being Chokolov. Now, his backstory has gang-related themes to it, but I don't think that's an issue. But it's unacceptable in this era to have visually stereotypical features. His lips were edited out in the Viz translation, and I don't really have an opinion, since on one hand, I think people with thick lips also need representation, and his appearance is never ridiculed or shown in a negative light relative to others. However, I understand that this can be interpreted as culturally insensitive, and we also had shamans from Mexico and Egypt wearing sombrero and a pharaoh mask, which is But the point is, if you want to have a truthful or a decent adaptation or representation from people from around the globe, they shouldn't feel alienated. They don't want to feel like they've been painted with a very thick, broad stroke of a brush. No, it's clear that having such a vast amount of characters from various parts of the world and wanting their international status to be clear to the viewer led to most of the design choices having such stereotypical features. But I don't think there's any malice in these designs, and I hope people understand that. What I love most is how the main tribe that runs the tournament is the Patch tribe. Simply put, they are, and they look absolutely badass. The Patch tribe represent Native Americans, and whilst there are various types and offshoots under the umbrella that is Native Americans, it's very rare for Native American characters to be in most media or have any representation at all, let alone in an anime coming out of Japan. A funny gag is how the Patch tribe in Shaman King possessed all the technology and money to facilitate a worldwide tournament. Their communication systems is the most advanced that you'll find, and in the manga, the military grade vehicles for transport, it subverts the assumption that the tribe is minimalist and primitive, where in fact they're probably the most advanced in the world at that time. Each of the 10 officiating priests are name puns from rare metals, and it's a nice touch at how Silver, the first Patch tribe member that we meet, has 5 spirits. Each of the 5 spirits represent animals from and found in North America: the bald eagle, the coral snake, the gopher tortoise, the American bison, and the coyote. Silver's ultimate move, the totem pole cannon, is an obvious visual cue to totem poles associated with Native Americans. There's much more word puns and these little visual cues, but we can talk about that another time. Let's talk about drugs. After what has been said, it's not surprising to say that Shaman King was heavily inspired by religion, but it would surprise many people to say that it was equally inspired by drugs. If you look at the name puns of the Asakura family, it will give you a nice laugh, but also you'd think how genius it is. Before Hao changed his name to Hao Asakura, he was known as Doji Asaha. This translates to hemp leaf boy. Hemp is a variety of the cannabis sativa plant species. Both marijuana and hemp have THC, which is the psychoactive portion that gets you high. After changing his name to Hao Asakura, the kanji translates to hemp treasury leaf king. Pretty much Hao is the literal embodiment of the weed emperor. Yo's name shares the same kanji as Hao, but it's read differently. Now, there are various panels of Yo having a cannabis leaf on his clothing, and this could be a stylistic choice. People say it's a Japanese maple leaf, but I'd lean more towards it being a conscious decision from Takei to include the cannabis leaf, as it works with the Asakura name etymology. The name literally translates to hemp, so we need to use some critical thinking here. And to further add some speculation, it was revealed in Shaman King's manga chapter 170 that one of Yo's favorite musicians is called Soul Bob, and is widely assumed to be inspired from Bob Marley. Now, Yo always has his headphones in and is always in his own world. Obviously, he's very calm, but some seasoned potheads may attribute his behavior as being very much in the sky. Now, this is headcanon, but with Takei's inspiration and peculiar approach to things, it's quite a high possibility. But if you're overthinking this, all I'll say is don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is gonna be alright. And look at the rest of Yo's family. They all have a leaf pun in their name, but what is it about this recreational inspiration? Look no further than our British green-haired boy Lyserg, where we have a concrete recreational inspiration. Lyserg diethyl is named after lysergic acid diethylamide, otherwise known as the hallucinogenic LSD or acid. His guardian ghost is named morphine, which is an addictive opiate painkiller. Lyserg is inspired by the famous fictional British detective Sherlock Holmes. The green plaid cape is a dead giveaway, but Sherlock Holmes was also known for his recreational use of morphine and cocaine. So yeah, there we have it. I find it fascinating how the concept of drugs was so obvious and conspicuous for the conceptualization of certain characters, but This is Shaman King. They don't hide nor do they shy away from the existing beliefs and cultural norms that take forth as time changes. We see this more and more with the sequel series of Shaman King Flowers and Shaman King the Superstar, where it's implied quite heavily that the previous Shaman Kings included Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Buddha within their ranks, which works out quite well in this fictional world since they're using the real world as a template, since each of these figures brought forth a renaissance in their respective eras. However, there is a focus in the cultural differences that arise from the differing ideologies from the past Shaman Kings. We look at capitalism and how it makes the people of the old mentality feel displaced spiritually. There is a feeling that the Shaman King universe is trying to always find balance between clashing ideologies in the most amicable way possible, taking from Chinese Taoism and finding that balance between yin and yang. They respect the cultures and seek to find common ground. There's always a clash between the old and the new world. We see that take place in the main stage in Shaman King the Superstar. But let's not go too deep into Shaman King the Superstar or the other sequel series just yet. Talking about worlds, the next video is going to look at the world building in Shaman King. So be sure to join the Shaman tribe and subscribe. Take care.